Bungie recently revealed the newest exotic weapon coming to Destiny 2. It's an exotic shotgun called Slayer's Fang, but what exactly are its exotic perks? What exotic catalyst can it get? And on top of that, what will the ornament look like? Have all been questions that people have been wondering until now. We have just recently gotten some leaks. Data miners have been able to dig into the files and figure out everything about this new exotic weapon. So this is your first and last spoiler warning. We're going to jump into these leaks right now. So first things first, we need to talk about the exotic weapon and how it works, right? It's a craftable void exotic shotgun. It works like a slug shotgun, but as you can see in the gameplay behind me here, this is the gameplay that Bungie shared with us. It can split off into various different projectiles. So how exactly does that work? What's going to be the most optimal way of using that? We're going to jump right into that. That was shared with us through the Bungie live stream here. So they have, first off, we can go through the image of the ornament before we jump into anything. This is what the ornament's going to look like. This was shared to us via Destiny Bulletin. You can see what the weapon looks like on the bottom there, and then the ornament on top. Looking very spicy. I like that ornament. Now moving on to the next part, we have the first perk, which is going to be called Night Sworn Sight, right? And here's what it reads. Dealing final blows to targets grants Night Sworn Sight. During that time, final blows will grant True Sight, so that's where you can see enemies through the walls. Ammo slowly reloads from reserves, and sub-munitions weaken targets, so it's going to be able to debuff while you get that. So all you have to do is first get a final blow to get that Night Sworn Sight, and then you have to get a second one in order to get True Sight. So they kind of make it really powerful, but it has a lot of setup, right? So you have to get one kill and then get a second kill, which I think is going to help balance it in something like PvP. It would be really difficult to, have to constantly get 2 kills with this weapon, especially with the ammo economy as it works right now. But obviously, it could create some steamrolling. Maybe there'll be some fun PvP clips with this shotgun out there. But as it seems right now, this is mostly like a PvP or PvE type weapon. I think, I don't think this is going to just go through and own the Crucible for any time soon, because it also has the effect of debuffing, like we mentioned before. And debuffing is really, really nice inside PvE and not so much inside PvP. Not really necessary. We don't need to debuff enemies inside the Crucible. The next perk reads Heart Piercer, which is rounds from this weapon shatter into sub-munitions on impact, and it's strong against overload champions. So this exotic shotgun has built-in overload rounds, so it'll be able to stun all the overloads, which is nice. I mean, it's always cool when they have that built-in anti-champion capabilities, but keep in mind that if there's ever, like, for example, anti-barrier shotgun or something like that, it actually won't stack with this, so you won't have the ability to stun both champion types. Whatever is the champion type that's on the weapon itself will supersede any of the artifact mods, so you won't ever be able to use the shotgun for stunning things like unstoppables and stuff like that. It's going to be strictly to overload champions, but should be pretty good and pretty effective at doing that. Next up, what are going to the 4 exotic catalysts going to be? Obviously, with these exotic craftable weapons, they get various different catalysts, and obviously this is data mine information, subject to change. It might be off, but more than likely this is all going to be very accurate, especially as we're very close to episode 3 coming out, or not episode 3, we should say act 3 coming out in January. We got Repulsor Brace, which is defeating a void debuff target, grants an overshield. Now obviously this weapon debuffs targets in and of itself by getting multiple kills with it, so it has the ability to self give you an overshield, so that could be pretty nice. Repulsor Brace could be pretty strong. And then we have Stats for All, hitting 3 separate targets, increases weapon handling, stability, reload, and range for a moderate duration. Now, initially, when you're thinking about a slug shotgun hitting 3 separate targets, you're like, that doesn't sound very interesting. But how this weapon has those projectiles that bounces all around, hitting 3 separate targets is probably pretty easy, actually, because all those projectiles can easily hit various different targets. You shoot it into any sort of group of enemies that has, any sort of serious add density, and should be able to proc that Stats for All if you're interested in that. Exotic Catalyst. The next one, which sounds kind of crazy, Cascade Point, which is final blows or sustained precision hits with another weapon, increase this weapon's rate of fire for a short duration. So you could use a different weapon, get some final blows, get some precision hits, and then swap to this and get some crazy rate of fire with it. Could make this weapon more suitable for like a burst DPS type of situation, maybe melting a champion. We'll have to see just how potent the weapon is before we can decide if it's a champion melting type weapon, or if it's just going to be like, for clearing, I don't know, GMs and melting champs, or whether it's for melting bosses or for melting champs. Sorry about that. Words are hard. The last exotic catalyst we have is Loose Change, which is applying an elemental debuff to a target increases this weapon's reload speed, aim assist, and movement while aiming down sights for a short duration. So that could be pretty nice as well. Obviously, like we said before, it's going to be weakening, and so hopefully loose change will also be a decent option. You have to decide. Let me know down in the comments below. Repulsor, brace, stats for all, cascade point, loose change. Which exotic catalyst are you going for on this weapon? Now, again, like we mentioned before, when will this be in your hands? When will you be able to use Slayer's Fang? That's going to be with the launch of Act 3 of Revenant. So what Bungie is doing now, if you haven't caught up to date with everything, is that they were doing the seasonal model for so long, and every calendar year, every 365 days inside Destiny 2, there was 4 seasons, and that model became very repetitive. Bungie was doing the craziest like copy and paste seasonal model UI every single season, just basically changing the images ever so slightly. And so people got really frustrated with that seasonal model, and so Bungie decided to move on to this episode model. So instead of 4 seasons, you actually only get 3, and they're each 4 months long instead of 3 months long, right? So you can do the math and how it adds up to a full year. But throughout this episode, there's kind of like something new around the corner every week, every other week, and they break down each episode into 3 different acts. And so they're kind of restructuring the entire grand scheme of Destiny within a calendar year, so that way there's kind of something to do always. Now, it's not going to keep you as engaged as like, when they just drop like a ton of new things in the game at one point in time, which people became accustomed to. But overall, I think that this keeps the player population a little more healthy, because, if they just drop a bunch of new stuff in the game and then do very little afterwards, then you see the population follow that, where there's a huge spike in player base and then a huge dip off afterwards. So I think that this is probably the healthier approach. I like the seasonal model, or I like this. I like the episode model. Seasonal model was getting pretty old, and so far I'm looking forward to the different acts that they're doing inside Revenant, and I'm looking forward to Heresy that will come out eventually as well. So January 7th is going to be Act 3 for Revenant, though. Looking forward to that. We'll have to see what Bungie unveils with all of that, but I wanted to bring you this news story because I find the leaks of this stuff pretty interesting when we can see whatever new stuff is coming out. And obviously there will be various more leaks in regards to anything going on with Act 3. There'll probably be some leaks in regards to anything Destiny Rising related, be leaks in regards to Heresy being released, and we'll try and cover that news, each and every time that stuff comes out, because that's the whole point of the channel, is to keep you up to date on all things Destiny 2. That's a wrap so far. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Later.
Now, the name of the quest we're not going to spoil for you because it has some story implications, but Taylor, I'd love to put you on the spot real quick. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here?
Yeah, so this is Slayer's Fang. It's a pretty unique slug shotgun. Where it fires a single slug round that, once it impacts a target or a surface like environment, the slug shatters in a bunch of secondary projectiles. And then once you get a kill, you get true sight for a short period of time, and then the shattered projectiles will weaken targets that they hit, and they get a bit smarter with their tracking.
Very nice.
Unique reload.
Yeah.
For a shotgun.
A crystal in that?
Yeah, it's like a small void crystal. Like, I think the theme is like the projectals are like hitting a surface and they shatter into bits.
Yeah.
We went down as a squad of 9. We're turned into void crystals and are now in an exotic weapon.
Hey, I mean, we
turn everything and everyone into weapons around here.
Comes guns or bullets or
Yeah.
something.
A worm.
But,
A very sassy word.
Yeah.
With that, but-
Also fully reloads the gun with the reload.
I was gonna ask.
It's not shell by shell.
Yeah, was it the whole? So it's the whole magazine up front, not necessarily. Okay. I'm already mentally trying to build this into as many loadouts as I possibly can.
Yeah.
For being
Your Falcon? Yeah.
Very curious if no backup plans Titans might happen.
Well, they will now.
Yeah. Also benefits from the shotgun changes that happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually,
Honestly.
like reasonable range to use this.
Is it
Yeah.
craftable?
Yes, yeah. So like kind of the past couple quests we've done with this, like Acquire 1, etc. A bunch of things to do in the activity, intrinsic levels to unlock, and a handful of catalysts that have some interesting interactions with how the gun works itself.
Very nice. All right, so the theory crafters in the audience are going to have plenty to sink their teeth into.
Yes,
Yeah.
and a few other maybe secret things to do.
Maybe secret things.